You're not crazy. This world we're living in is crazy. You may wonder and question why you never fit into society, why you don't fit into that nice little identity of a corporate worker, or why you don't fit in with a lot of groups of friends and whatnot. The truth is, you're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. This world is somewhat sick and crazy. And the fact that you don't fit in means that you're sane. This culture and this time we're living in is very, very strange indeed. People would rather have the appearance of being successful, they'd rather have the appearance of being well put together, of being in a great relationship, of being happy. They'd rather put on that appearance and have that facade rather than digging deep and really finding what's going to make them happy, really living authentically. We've been conditioned to put on a show, put on an appearance, to mask our true selves, to fit into a society. And we think that's just the way things are. And that's the way things are in this day and age. But that's not the way you have to be. You can live authentically. You can follow your heart. You don't have to follow what's been set out in front of you, follow what everybody else is doing. This all starts in school, where they condition you to be a slave to the system, to get up and go to the next class when the bell rings, to study one subject for 1 hour, to they cater to the lowest common denominator, the slowest student in the class. I remember being in school and just being bored to death, going over the same basics over and over again. And that it's really just demeaning, and it learning and improving yourself is almost discouraged, because there's no room for creative exploration. It's not truly exploring a topic. It's memorize these facts so you can recite them on an exam. So this is one example of where our society could use some improvement, and I want to be a part of that change. But yeah, that's just one example where you start learning and reading all these books and improving yourself, and people kind of question it. They question, why don't you just have some fun, or or you start getting weird looks from people. They'd rather kind of paint you out as being a little weird than really looking at what's going on where they need to improve. It's kind of funny like that. Then you get out of school and you're conditioned by your family and your friends and just what you see around you to go get a job, go get a nice job with some good benefits, and just put your time in. And that's changing a little bit in the modern age with the internet and a lot of new avenues becoming available. But that was still very pressed upon me at an early age from my family and society. And I know it may be the case for you as well. But the truth of what's happening is, in a lot of these corporations, the soul is kind of missing. The motive is money, the almighty dollar. And it's hard because it's very expensive to live nowadays. But you go into a corporation, and really what's happening is you're selling your soul for a certain amount of money because you're expected to fit into a certain stereotype of a good worker, show up on time, do what we tell you, and don't question things. And you're not really free to be yourself. You kind of got to put on this facade of being a good worker in that environment, and it's not very authentic. And that can have the effect of your soul kind of just chipping away at your soul day by day if it's not aligned with your values and your mission. So that's another aspect of where this world's kind of crazy because even, we think of ourselves as advanced, but even in the Middle Ages, in this respect, there used to be apprenticeships. People used to take pride in their craft and what they do. And their work used to be kind of a journey of finding your soul and really putting your all into it, and it meant something. And that's something we're missing in this corporate culture. So I would encourage you to, take a look at if you're feeling fulfilled, and if you're not, take some steps to get on a more aligned path with what your heart's really telling you. We're kind of conditioned to push away what we really feel. Another aspect, when we're feeling depressed, when we're feeling like something's not quite right, instead of diving deep and questioning, those feelings are there for a reason. It's because we're not feeling fulfilled within our soul with the work and the lifestyle we're living. But rather than acknowledge that, you'd be encouraged to go to a doctor, a therapist, perhaps. And I mean, none of these things are bad. There's a place for all of it. But a lot of the time, something that could be solved by digging deep and realigning your life more authentically, instead, you're encouraged to solve that issue on the surface by going and getting a prescription, um, by or whether or not you're encouraged, this is still just what ends up happening because of a lack of awareness that you now go and escape into drugs and alcohol, and there's not the resources and the awareness there should be of how to actually solve these issues at the root by aligning your life more authentically. And then relationships and sexuality is another aspect. And this is something that I've been doing a lot of inner work on myself and solving issues recently, because the way relationships and sexuality is viewed in our society at the moment is very immature. And it's almost like a contract when you get into a relationship. Okay, you're my girlfriend, I'm your boyfriend, and we do certain, it's kind of like unspoken, but we expect each other to do certain things for each other. And we kind of, especially at first, put on a mask, and it's not as intimate as it really could be because we're almost relating more to in our head what we want our partner to be rather than seeing that person as they are a lot of the times. And with sexuality, it's a lot is just focused on the climax and the appearance of things, and it's not really truly making love. And there's much deeper levels to that than what is generally acknowledged and practiced. Um, I heard a good point the other day, which is that most people in sexuality have the mentality of a 13-year-old. And it makes sense because sexual education stops around the age of 13. Um, and it's also just a superficial society we're living in, and the overstimulation um, with, explicit material online, and all this is contributing to the problem. But we can do the healing work, and we can come to be more mature in how we treat relationships and sexuality in our lives. Then there's the normalization of drinking, going out and drinking, smoking weed. It's just all normal and it's seen as not really a bad thing. Whereas, and anything in moderation can be okay, and people are free to live how they want. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but why is there such a problem with addiction in our culture and people feel so inclined to go for the drink and go for the drugs? There's not enough education on how to truly heal yourself, and instead of sitting with the problem, instead of reading some good books, maybe going to therapy, starting a meditation practice, rather than healthy ways, aligning your life towards what your soul and your intuition is telling you. Instead of that, people are escaping into drugs and alcohol, and it's not their fault. There's no education out there. They don't know what to do. It's very painful and there's a lot of suffering. But there's better answers. Um, and even though, this age we're living in is very strange and there's a lot of turmoil and conflict and addiction and there's a lot of gripping issues, in a way it's a blessing to be living in this time, because without all this confrontation, would there be an incentive to dig deep and really find what's important? I'm not sure there would be as much of an incentive there to find what's really going to fulfill you in life. For me, that's raising my level of consciousness is what matters. Awakening and helping other people wake up to what's really going on in reality, which is that we're souls on this planet to evolve. That's the purpose. Everything else is secondary. However, these trying circumstances can force us to go deep inside, to wake up, to establish a connection with a higher power. Because if things were just comfortable, would there necessarily be that incentive and would there be enough suffering to where you have no other choice but to go deep inside and find what's really important and what's really going to fulfill you inside, regardless of what's happening? You can still find that power inside yourself to be happy and to live an authentic life. That's that's why our souls chose to live here during this time with all the challenges that are going on. At a deep level, we wanted to shake ourselves out of complacency, out of thinking that we are what we see around us in this little limited form in this life. We're only here for 70, 80, 90 years. Then this body drops away. But the level of consciousness that you've developed stays with you where you go next and into your next lifetimes or whatever may lie beyond. That level of consciousness and your consciousness doesn't just go away. That's another sickness, is people are so afraid of death and they do everything to mask aging, to not consider death and to kind of just not consider the fact that they're going to die. But considering and contemplating that can actually be very liberating, in the sense that you realize all of this isn't that important. The externals and the little details, that's not what's important. What's important is developing your level of consciousness to the highest degree that you can, and to become less dependent on this external show and more just content and more aware of the power of the universe that's within you. We're all manifestations of the divine. We all have that power within us, but this show externally is so distracting and so gripping that a lot of the times we don't look inside. So I think that's all I have to say, and I just encourage people to. I'd encourage you to dig deep inside and find that authentic way of living life, and don't give up on yourself. Don't think you're crazy because you're different. Put in the time to heal yourself. Step away from the madness that's going on around you and search inside for the answers. I wish you all the best. Jam Masters.